Welcome to InterviewPro. In the last video, we learned how to implement two-way binding in Angular. We have created a feedback form with two fields, name and feedback, and a button to submit the form. This submit button is enabled, allowing users to submit the form even if there is no data, which is not good. Let's do one thing. We'll disable this button when the form is empty and enable this button when we have data for username and feedback. If we look at the button HTML code, we use the class called button-primary. Let me update this to secondary and go back to UI, we see that this button is in gray color. So this is looking fine when we don't have the data. Now when we enter the data, we need this button to be enabled like in blue color. So we have to switch between primary and secondary. Obviously, to actually disable this button, we need to use this disabled equals, let me make it attribute binding, and this needs to be disabled when username dot length equals 0 and feedback dot length equals 0. Now we see that this button is actually disabled. I don't see the change in the cursor. So we need to add a logic for primary and secondary based on the conditions. We want primary when username and feedback are provided by the user, and secondary when either of this data is missing. The class button is common in both the cases. So to handle this situation, there is a directive called NgClass in Angular. So NgClass is a directive that is used to apply classes dynamically. Based on the conditions, we can either add a class or remove a class. Let's update this class to NgClass. Inside this class, we will create an object. So this object will have button hyphen primary. When do we want this class to be applied? When username dot length is greater than 0 and feedback dot length is greater than 0. Let me move this to next line so that it would be clear. And so now we need another condition to add button hyphen secondary class. So let's go to the next line. You can add it in the single line. Button hyphen secondary. We want this class when username dot length equal to 0 or feedback dot length equal to 0. And we have one more common class called button. For this button colon, simply put it as true because we want this button class to be applied in all the conditions. So let's save this, go back to UI. Now we see that this button is disabled, but the gray color is missing here. Let's see what went wrong. Okay, we have a typo here. It's secondary R was missing. Now we see the gray color. If I enter the username test user 1 and also the feedback like awesome content, we see that this button is enabled, and also when I place the cursor on this, it is changed to pointer. And if I remove any of these, I will see the button disabled again. So when we have multiple classes with complex conditions, we can make use of NgClass directive. In cases where we have only single class that is added or removed based on a simple condition, we can definitely make use of NgClass. But there is another way to achieve this. So in the CSS, I have added a class called red border, which would simply apply a border with 1 pixel and red in color. So if we go to this control, the input name, I want this input name to have a red border when the name is not provided. So how do I achieve that? I'll simply make use of a class attribute. So class dot, I'll say red hyphen border. And when do we want this condition to be applied? When username is missing. So I'll say username dot length equals 0. Let me save this, go back to UI. Now there is no data for this username, so we see a red border. As soon as I enter the data, we see that border is gone now. So based on the condition, this simple class red border is applied. Make sure there is no space when you use this class attribute. You can see the error immediately. So it should be a single word and hyphen or underscore is allowed. So this is how we can add or remove classes using NgClass, or in case of simple classes, we can go with class attribute. So this process is called class binding in Angular. I hope the concept is clear. If you like the content, please like, share and subscribe to InterviewPro. Thank you.